Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for showing off after my stepfather kept telling everyone I was poor? I, early 30s female, have 2 children that were born when I was 21 and 22. My daughter, eldest, was an accident, but my second daughter was deliberate as I found out that I needed a hysterectomy due to medical reasons, and being an only child and sick major, I believed it was important that my daughter had a sibling. At the time, I had recently, amicably, split from my partner, and my stepfather was strongly against me further ruining my life by having another child due to his belief that you cannot be successful as a single parent. I ended up going no contact with my mum, stepfather and 2 half siblings, at the time 10 and 9, over this. My stepfather is in no position to talk as he our mum are far from well off due to his gambling addiction that chewed through my mum's savings prior to his recovery. About 2 years ago, my mum reached out to me as she was diagnosed with cancer. She came through it and is now in remission. I'm not as close with them as I used to be, but things have been improving. However, my stepfather keeps going on about how I never made it because I don't have a nice car or a fancy apartment in the city or a husband, and insisting that I must be poor because I'm not materialistic. I got used to being frugal in my early 20s when I was a poor uni student with 2 kids and just never really changed. I have a very nice gov job with a 6-figure salary where I work from home, but I drive a 2009 Nissan, and I own a nice house in the country because I don't see the point in buying a city apartment that I don't need, or a flashy car that will have a shitty KMS to L ratio. Things came to a head at a recent family dinner when I told my mum about a budget place to get tires from. Hers are almost bald, and my stepfather said good to have a poor person in the family so we know where the deals are. I got pissed off and told him to stop assuming things about me and walked out with my kids. Yesterday I notified them of the 60k trust I have set up for my half siblings uni trust fund and took them to buy a vehicle each so they can get to uni. Both are starting this year. I deliberately left the windscreen price stickers on so my stepfather would see how much I spent. Today my stepfather called me ranting about how I was showing off and how I should keep my mouth shut and respect my elders. My mum texted Yosei that he's furious at her for ever contacting me. Am I the antagonist here? Edited to the trust I've been putting together for a while because I know my half siblings won't get financial support from their parents, but the cars I did purely out of spite. Now for the top comments. NTA, your stepfather's behavior is ridiculous. He's the one causing your mother's stress, not you. Her mother was unfortunate to marry such a materialistic asshole. Op is not the a-hole. She proved her stepfather wrong in a reasonable way. He's just embarrassed. NTA, he's just embarrassed because you proved him wrong. I love that for you. Exactly. So not the a-hole, the hero. NTA. May all of us have the ability to absolutely own the person that comes after us. Thank you for sharing. I really needed a win today. Am I the antagonist for not dropping a friendship that makes my husband uncomfortable? I, 29F, am a sucker for my husband. Some, 31 male. I'm weak for his lopsided smile and big belly laugh. But beyond the stupid crush, he's my best friend, my partner in crime, and someone I unconditionally love and trust. We work well together and communicate freely. Any kind of conflict that arises, we tackle together. Here's the thing, though. He really doesn't approve of one of my friendships because of how complicated it is. He's too kind to tell me to drop someone I care about, but I can see how deeply it bothers him, and I wonder if I'm the here for not putting some space in that relationship. Here's the rundown. In HS and college I was really close to this guy, Clark. I quickly established a really deep friendship with his sister, Jess, and they become really important people in my life. Clark and I trauma bonded the summer after we graduated HS, and in college we developed an unhealthy codependent relationship. Eventually, we tried dating, which ended disastrously. Clark ended up being horribly abusive, and I dropped out of his life. However, I kept the friendship with Jess. 2 years ago Jess had her first baby, and of course I was involved. As I was helping out with the baby shower, I met Clark's new GF, Sarah. We instantly connected and band together to assist Jess in any way she needed as her baby daddy was not in the picture. I really enjoyed Sarah. She was kind and upbeat and bubbly and encouraging. She and Clark had just moved in together and she was excited to be independent. She's legally disabled and was living off her parents. Clark assumed responsibility over her needs. The problem was the more time I spent with Sarah, the more she began opening up about her relationship with Clark. As it turns out, I was not the first or last person to deal with his abusive ways. She started calling me for advice regularly and coming over to get away from him, etc. On more than one occasion I asked her why she didn't just leave him, but she always responded that she was worried no one else would take care of her and didn't want to give up her independence. I love Sarah, I do, and I want to be her friend. My husband is worried that I'm only her friend because I'm trying to be the person for her that I never had. He's worried that the more time I spend with Sarah, the higher the risk Clark will come back into my life in a bad way. Am I the antagonist for wanting to continue my friendship with Sarah? Now for the top comments. Now accept Clark. Your husband is right. She's becoming dependent on you, and if she leaves Clark, she will no doubt try to get you to be her caretaker. Your husband didn't sign up for that, but I get why you want to help her, so maybe set some boundaries. You're willing to help her get away from him and actually be independent, but she can't just come over whenever and depend on you like that. Your husband is also right that you don't want Clark in your life, and it would be mad if he became a part of it again. So I would have a sit down with her and lay down some boundaries. My first thought when she said back quote I'm afraid no one else will take care of me was thinking she's waiting for Op to offer to take her in until she's back on her feet, at which point she'll never leave. Nah, apart from Clark obviously. Your husband is concerned, but trusting you to work it out. Not really seeing a conflict between you. Talking to him about the concerns. How to help Sarah and stay safe yourself is a good plan. He may have ideas on how to help her more. There should be adult social services who may be able to support and or domestic violence groups. Close bracket. I second this. Obviously these agencies are likely called different things in different states/countries. But where I am, I'd suggest adult protective services as well as the police, because this abuse could fall under DV dependent adult abuse. Your friend absolutely needs all the help she can get. Am I the antagonist for telling my mother-in-law that when she's dead, it won't be a big deal? It's been a really tough year for us. Early this year I took a trip to visit my sick mother on her deathbed, right before she passed away, which was the most difficult experience of my life. After returning home, my Phil started getting sick and falling down a lot, and he's been refusing to use his wheelchair. His most recent fall has landed him in the hospital with a fractured neck and a softball-sized knot on his head. He's been in the hospital now for 2 weeks and he only seems to be getting sicker. My mother-in-law has been taking care of him, and she has been understandably overwhelmed and stressed, especially going back and forth between home and hospital. On one hand, I empathize with her because she is in an awful position and doesn't have much control over her life anymore. On the other hand, she's always been kind of a bitch, and she doesn't make it easy to be there for her. I've always gotten along with my in-laws, but it's not without effort. They are both very opinionated and argumentative people, and they dominate any conversation. I used to make an effort to spend time with my mother-in-law, but it's like the moment she would see me, she'd dump everything on me, and I end up sitting there listening to her rant every day. I ended up distancing myself from her for that reason. That being said, she's been going through a lot lately, so I've been trying to be there for her, which mostly involves just sitting there letting her vent. The other day she said, "I just can't believe how awful this year has been." I said, "Yeah, I know. It's been so stressful for all of us." She chuckled a little bit. "I can't imagine what you're stressed about. At least you get to be home." Well, my mother did die recently, so I've had a lot on my mind. She was quiet for a minute. I think she genuinely forgot that my mother had died. At this point, I thought she would say comforting. But nope. Well, that's not as bad as what I'm dealing with. You just don't know. Usually I'm pretty good about keeping my mouth shut. I tried to stay quiet and let it go. But I was heated. I said to her, "I can't believe I just wasted my time sitting here listening to you bitch for 40 minutes just for you to turn around and say something so insensitive to me. I'll keep that in mind. When you're dead, I'll remind Ben that it's not a big deal and it could be worse. Does that sound good?" And then I left. As I was telling my husband about it a few minutes later, she called to tell him what had happened. "I'm calling to let you know that your wife wants me dead," was the only part one heard before I left the room and let him talk to her. When he was done, he was pretty pissed at her about the whole thing. Right now, I'm feeling like an asshole because I feel like I lost my temper when I should have been gentler with her, since she's definitely going through a lot. I also feel bad that I created a problem between him and his mother at such a critical time. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA, my god, how insensitive can one woman be? You stood up for yourself. I'm proud of you. OMG, you want her dead. She sounds so exhausting and self-centered. NTA, going through a bad time is no excuse to double down on you being the only person having a bad time when someone reminds you that you're not. She created her own problem by not simply saying "I'm sorry" or letting it drop, and then going to her baby with a heavily edited version of events to try and cause problems in your marriage when she got called on it. Some people need to compete in the suffering Olympics so they can win the golden martyrdom. 100% of those people are exhausting to be around. Am I the antagonist for initiating a report that threw my son's entire school into chaos? I have a kindergarten-aged son, Jay. Jay's birthday was in early February, and when I asked him what he wanted for a birthday present, he said he didn't want to go to school anymore, and if he could stop. I had thought he enjoyed going to school. He hadn't given the usual kindergartner tantrums or anything. And he told me that there was a kid next to him who made stinky in his pants and he couldn't handle the smell anymore. Well, I called his teacher about it, who told me that she wasn't allowed to help toilet train the kids and could only call for an aide to clean up the other boy and take him to the bathroom. And she couldn't even move Jay somewhere else in the room because there was a seating arrangement and that was Jay's place in it. I was less than impressed with her willingness to do nothing about it. Told in this almost bored tone I struggled to convey in writing. So I called the principal next. All he did was confirm that teachers are not allowed to take students to the bathrooms, and that while there was no school-wide seating policy, teachers did have the power to seat the students in their room however they saw fit. And if my son's teacher wanted grid rows of kids in alphabetical order, that was her business. He seemed honestly baffled by why I didn't want my child sitting next to another kid who regularly shat himself. I was, to put it bluntly, quite angry at this point, and retained an attorney to help me discuss my options and see what pressure we could apply to the school. My lawyer got in touch with the county's education department, or whatever it's called, and we are making plans to move Jay to a different school for the next year. But there was an announcement that the principal of the current school is being let go. There's some ad hoc executive council running the school now, and everything's in chaos. They're also firing a bunch of the teachers, and apparently the local teachers union is talking about taking action. Although they have not done it yet, I wanted Jay out of the situation. But looking back, I could have just changed his school. Now it looks like I took a giant wrecking ball to the school and possibly impacted literally hundreds of other students' education. Am I the asshole? This got way out of control. Now for the top comments. Well, regardless, I don't think you are, so not the a-hole. But I think you are jumping to conclusions to think this is why it's all happening. Maybe your report made them start to investigate things, which opened up more issues. But I really doubt a single incident is causing all of these issues. Info, what makes you think the two things are related? Edit, NTA. I would imagine, after filing this complaint and getting the county school board involved, investigations began for neglect of the student, letting a 5-year-old sit in shit pants all day, which caused a chain reaction. A complaint investigation fired the principal investigate and remove teachers, and now the teachers union is up in arms. Chaos. NTA. Imagine being a little kid stuck sitting in his own mess until an aide can come to take him out. All the other kids know about his problem and don't want to be near him. If that child has a medical situation, it needs to be addressed. If it's a behavioral situation, it needs to be addressed. The school isn't imploding because you wanted your kid's seat moved. It's imploding because as soon as high-level people started looking closely at the school, they started finding big problems. Revealing problems that already exist is not the same as creating them. Edit. Thank you kindly for the award or awards. Close bracket. Yeah. I just feel so bad for that kid. Whether he's been sent to school not toilet trained. He needs bathroom access he isn't getting. Whatever. That's a rough thing for this kid. He's gonna spend several years being that kid. Apostrophe. Am I the antagonist for siding with my brother and offending my fiancé? My fiancé doesn't want my brother attending the wedding because he would bring his BF, and our families are incredibly conservative and our day would be overshadowed for sure. She called me out for siding with my brother and telling her that if all other siblings get to bring a date, so does my brother. She said my brother and his so will turn the wedding into a freak show. So I told her that if he can't come with his so, we can just go to City Hall, sign the papers, and have no ceremony at all. She broke down crying and called me an R, telling me she just wants the wedding to be all about us. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Your fiancé implied that your brother bringing his so would turn your wedding into a freak show. Please think long and hard about marrying this woman. She is showing her true colors. NTA. This op have to realize right now that the person he wants to marry will never accept his brother. I think overall that op is being more than reasonable about the if other can bring their so, he can too op. Beware of the homophobic Brazilla. Exactly. It's not about the wedding. It's about how she sees his brother in general. The ones who should be removed from the wedding, if need be, is those who are trashy enough to make a fuss over the brother and his BF, not the couple who have come to celebrate with the bride and groom. Am I the antagonist for refusing to tell my husband or anyone else the gender of my baby? My husband and dad both have a vested interest in my baby being a boy. Although my husband now claims he won't care either way and would love to have a daughter. I don't know if I believe him. As soon as I was able to find out the gender, my husband wanted to, but I said no. I started to feel anxious the further along I was, so I decided to find out alone. My family, especially my dad, have been asking me what the gender is. Everybody, including my husband, is upset with me because I won't tell them. The reason I won't is because I think they should be happy the baby is healthy and the focus shouldn't be the gender. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Info. Has there been a reason as to why you don't believe your husband would be positive of the gender regardless? Whenever we spoke about having a child, it would always be him asking me when I would give him a son. It never seemed to register in his mind that any baby we have could easily be a girl and not a boy. Also, my husband will benefit greatly if the baby is a boy. Did you tell him his sperm decides the gender? So it's him giving you a son/daughter. Info. What specifically were you anxious about that knowing the gender would help? I was worried that if the baby was a girl they would treat her differently, so I needed to know so I could figure out what I would do in that case. But what would you do? If the baby was a girl I would make plans to leave, so that if they treated her badly she wouldn't have to grow up around it. Why did you procreate with him then? If you knew this would happen, and if you planned to leave, why have a baby with him in the first place?